All right, guys, in this video, we're going to break down our no money down program. We're calling our Reach Home Ownership program. And I'm going to break down the big picture of how this thing works and why it's an incredible strategy. Number one, who is this program for? I would say anybody who values keeping as much of their own cash in their pocket as they can to own an asset. I'm not saying there are no benefits to putting cash down. There certainly are, right? I think, de-risks it. You can have less risk inside of a deal. But generally speaking, there's a lot of reasons to hold on to your cash, right? Maybe you're somebody who's making 9% in the stock market right now, and the idea of parting with that cash to go take on 6.5% mortgage debt isn't super compelling to you, right? And so maybe you have other investments that are generating great returns and you want to just hold on to your cash. Or maybe you're somebody who you got a good job, you're paying your bills on time, and you decent credit, you're doing well there, but you just haven't been able to save up for that down payment for whatever reason. But you recognize, I would like to own. I would love to be able to own something. And so if that's you, then here's kind of how this program I think is really special. So number one, you're going to get pre-qualified. Our people that we share this with are just going to go through a normal loan officer. They're going to get pre-qualified, and then they're going to go out there with that pre-qualification. They find out how much they can qualify to spend in terms of lending. They're going to get partnered with a realtor, and that realtor and them are going to go work together to find the house that they're interested in buying. It's just a normal shopping process, like every other way that you'd go buy a house. Now, where this becomes a little bit different is when you're out there looking at houses that you'd like to buy, one of the questions that your realtor is going to be able to ask the seller of that property is, hey, give me a copy of all the utility bills that are going on. They're going to want to see the water bill, the electric bill, gas bill, whatever other bills are associated with that property. We're going to want to take a look at what the operating cost is. And one of the things that's going to be a really key thing for us to look at is the electric bill. We are going to use the opportunity to build a manufacturing plant on this property for the price of cash and see if we can produce energy cheaper than we could buy at retail from the power company. If the answer is yes, if we can truly build a manufacturing plant that produces energy at a rate that is superior than we can buy it for from the utility company, we're going to create a value add to that property because that solar is going to be paid off at the closing table. There's not going to be a solar finance payment associated with it. There's not going to be a lease payment. There's not going to be any of those things. It will be paid off in cash, purely wrapped into the mortgage debt. Now, why is this super significant? Well, you're walking into a home improvement project. You are increasing the value of that property on day one, and you are reducing the operating cost of that property, meaning what it costs for you to run that property every month from your mortgage payment, property taxes, insurance, and electric bill is going to be lower than it otherwise would have been. And this is a significant detail. Realtors generally don't love solar, and I'll tell you why. It's not unfounded. Solar has historically been sold in a way that has not been super beneficial to a lot of consumers. Not to everybody. There's some great cases of great solar examples, but by and large, there's a lot of crazy bad stories too. And where that comes from is that this industry has been largely unregulated. You've had people selling solar, not knowing how to size it, all kinds of crazy. And then the financing that's been associated with a lot of these solar products, crazy financing terms, these banks have charged insane dealer fees, all that stuff. It has just been a Wild West industry, right, with no sheriff in town. We are fundamentally changing that. When somebody puts solar on their property through our program, number one is we get to have transparency and control over the pricing, right? We as a company obviously get to make sure that they're going to get a great rate for solar. We know that we are going to undercut the cost of operating that property, right? We get to control that up front. And we get to do it in a way where in the cost of solar, we are going to bake in the actual cost of hard cost materials and labor of solar. We're also going to bake in the down payment for the property, right? Where you can actually bring the down payment to the property inside of this solar portion of the financing. And then you're also going to be able to wrap in, if you choose to, an interest rate buy down. And depending on how long you want to hold that property, it could make sense to actually do a rate buy down and further bring down the mortgage costs by reducing the interest rate. Obviously, we'll take this on a case-by-case basis, on a property-by-property basis, on a person situation-by-person situation basis. But this is the things that we're going to look at with every single person, is saying, hey, how do we engineer with no money out of pocket a way to acquire this property in a way that allows us to have an improved property value, lower operating costs, immediate equity appreciation inside of the property, and a property that's going to become easier to sell for the realtor down the road because it has paid off solar when you pass it to the next buyer.